The title of this lesson is going to be linear functions. This is related to lesson 7. So we already know what a function is from the previous days. We know that a function has one output for every single input. But now we're only going to be considering lines, and that's where the word linear comes from. So we're going to be looking for functions of a line. To understand linear functions, the first thing that we're going to do is pay attention to the equation. The equation of a linear function is going to be in the form y equals mx plus b. Now, there are multiple ways to write the equation of a line, but we are actually going to focus on this one just because it is easier to write it. So again, this is what we call the slope-intercept form. Again, and this works because we have the slope right here, and we also have the y-intercept. So the letter that represents the slope is going to be your m, and the letter that represents your y-intercept is going to be your b. So we're going to write that down. And then your b is going to represent So the b is going to represent the y-intercept. Now, keep in mind that whenever we're talking about slope, we say that the slope is going to be your rate of change and that's going to be given by the formula y2 I apologize. It's supposed to be y2, and be careful because the 2 is a subscript. It's underneath, not above. So we're going to write it at the bottom, and that's going to be divided by x2 minus x1. I'm going to put emphasis on that. The 2 is at the bottom, not in the top. If you put it in the top, that's going to be an exponent. But whenever we have it at the bottom, we're going to use it to label numbers. And they're going to follow an order. And the b, the important part about b is going to be it is where x equals 0. So every time that x equals 0, that's going to tell you what the y-intercept is. You're going to see it in the graph in the next portion, but that is the main part. The b is going to tell you where it crosses the y-axis. So in this one we have a graph, and we're going to have to find the slope and the y-intercept. Okay? So you need to find both items, and then you're going to write it into the equation of the line. So I'm going to find the slope by looking at the 2 points that I have. I have one point right here, and then I have another point right here. So I'm going to write the point. So this is going to be 0, comma, -2. Keep in mind that the first one is going to be your x, and this is going to be your y. And then the next point is going to be 2, comma 3. And again, the first one is going to be your x and your y. Whenever you're looking at a function, you're going to be reading a function from left to right. So this is going to be your first point, and this is going to be your second point. And as you can see, if you read something from left to right, similar to how you read a book, the line is going up. So you expect this to have a positive slope. So now let's put into the formula. So that's going to be, and I'm going to write again the points right here just to make it easier. So we know that the first one is x, the second one is y, and then we have 0, comma, -2, and then we have 2, comma, 3. This is going to be your x1, y1. This is going to be your x2, y2. Now, to find the slope, we put y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. We know the y2 is right here, so that's going to be the number 3. Your y1 is going to be right here, and this is -2. So be careful right there, because we know that the formula tells you minus, and now you have a -2 right there. Now we're going to be dividing. Now we're going to be dividing by the x's. Our x2 is right here, so that's going to be 2, and then minus 0. Over here you need to keep in mind that because you have a double negative, you're going to do the 2 strokes, and that gives you 5 over 2. Now, a lot of people don't like fractions and stuff like that, but I actually don't mind fractions, so I'm going to leave my answer as a fraction. So now we know that m is equal to 5 over 2. And now, to find the b, you have 2 options. Your b is always going to be in the form 0, comma b. So if you see a point that is like that, 0, comma b, that's going to be the number that we're looking. So whatever number is right here. Okay? If you have a graph, just go to wherever it crosses the y-axis. Keep in mind that this is your x-axis, this is your y-axis. So just look where it crosses. And the point that we have right here, we know that our b is going to be -2. So I'm going to put right here, b is equal to -2. Now, to put it into the equation, we only need to do y equals mx plus b. And we only need to substitute the numbers. So that means that I'm going to put y is equal to, you know what your m is from right here. We're going to write 5 over 2 times x plus, we know that it's a -2. Now, this part right here doesn't look nice, so I'm actually going to fix that. I'm going to rewrite it as y equals 5 over 2 x minus 2. And that will be your answer. Right now we're going to be looking at a table. And we're going to follow the same step as the previous part on how to find the y-intercept and also how to find the slope. In the previous years, most likely you had to find how this was increasing, so +1, +1, and then +1. And in this case, you had to find this increasing by 2, by 2 by 2. Now sometimes the numbers are not as pretty, sometimes the numbers are messier, or decimals or fractions, and that's not ideal to be checking whether something is to try to find a unit rate like that is going to be more challenging. So what we're going to be doing is, again, we're going to use the slope formula. So the slope formula is going to be m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. In this table, you actually have multiple points. The thing is, you need to choose 2 points, and the order doesn't really matter. You can choose this point and this point, and you're going to get the same answer. You can choose this point or this point, and they're going to give you the same answer. So I want to choose this point and this point, just because I felt like jumping one. So I'm going to use 0, 3, and then the next point is going to be 2, 7. Keep in mind that we're going to put them in order, so x1, y1, x2, y2, and then I'm going to plug in the numbers. So that's going to be 7 minus 3 all over 2 minus 0. And that's going to give you 4 over 2, which gives you 2. So in this case, we know that the slope is going to be equal to 2. Now, whenever you have a table, it's a lot easier to find where the y-intercept is, because you can just see wherever it crosses the y-axis. But in this case, we're actually going to look for wherever x is equal to 0. In this case, x is equal to 0, so this needs to be your y-intercept. So again, keep in mind that we said that y-intercept is going to be 0, b. In this case, our 0 is going to be 3 for the b. So we're going to put b is equal to 3. Now we're going to write it as y equals mx plus b, and we're going to substitute the values of m and b. So that's going to be y is equal to 2x plus 3. In this case, we only saw positive slopes, but sometimes the numbers are going to be negative. And that means that your line, instead of going up, is going to be going down from left to right.